Ozempic.
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 It is literally the hottest drug in the country right now.
Now it's just not for the celebrities anymore. Everybody's taking it.
The medication works, but only as long as you take it, Willie.
If weight loss was a religion, Ozempic would be its god. Ozempic is everywhere. It's on the cover of magazines, splashed across New York subways. It's the subject of countless memes and jokes. And if the stories are to be believed, it's also coursing through the veins of Hollywood stars, tech moguls, and anyone who can get their hands on it. Much like the diet-entrenched, skinny-obsessed culture we live in, talk of Ozempic is everywhere. Ozempic is the branded name for semaglutide. It's a drug used to treat type 2 diabetes. It helps regulate blood sugar levels by imitating a hormone called glucagon-like peptide 1 that we naturally produce in our guts. It works by limiting the appetite by signaling our bodies that we feel full and prompting our stomachs to empty more slowly, which obviously has made it an extremely popular off-label medication for those wishing to shed some weight. When people take the drug, higher levels of that hormone flood the receptors in our brain that regulate our eating behaviors, changing how our neurons transmit signals to the rest of our body. Just as some people lose interest in once beloved foods after bariatric surgery, weight loss surgery, those taking Ozempic often find that they no longer crave foods that are high in fat and sugar, both because their appetite decreases overall and potentially because of those neural changes which can distort their perception of taste. Now, diet pills and weight loss medications are nothing new. They have been around for over a century because society, and particularly women, have always been subjected and pressured into conforming into some restrictive beauty ideals. And because weight loss is a big business, and since it's rarely successful in the long term, it comes with a built-in supply of repeat customers. And doctors have been involved in the business one way or another for a long time. Some 2,000 years ago, the Greek physician and philosopher Galen diagnosed bad humors as the cause of obesity and prescribed massages, baths, and slimming foods like greens, garlic, and wild game for his overweight patients. Ozempic may be hailed as a new silver bullet, as a weight loss miracle, but if we look back over the history of diet pills and weight loss drugs, we can begin to appreciate how it's not always what it seems. Our first misadventure is dinitrophenol, whose story goes back to World War I. One of the first weight loss drugs, dinitrophenol, was first used in munitions factories as an explosive. But after workers who came into contact with it were seen to lose weight, in the 1930s it was rebranded and sold as an anti-obesity therapy. Not long afterwards, however, dinitrophenol was shown to be incredibly unsafe at high doses, causing blindness, neuropathy, and at very high doses came death. Not a great side effect. By 1938, the FDA stated that it was extremely dangerous and not fit for human consumption, and it was removed from the market. In the 1940s, the amphetamine Benzedrine became the diet pill of choice. Originally sold as a decongestant, Benzedrine salts were then discovered to be powerful stimulants, and when World War II came, the military in the US, Germany, UK, and Japan placed large orders of the pills to keep soldiers going on the battlefield. As the war came to an end, pharmaceutical company Smith, Kline, and French shifted focus to a different demographic: housewives. They marketed amphetamine to housewives so they could lose weight. In the swinging 60s came the amphetamine mixed salts again, including methamphetamine and dextroamphetamine. These were approved by the FDA to treat obesity. By 1965, the FDA banned the inhalers completely and limited amphetamines to prescription use only. But having been approved as a weight loss drug previously, vast quantities of amphetamines like Obitrol started to be dispensed by diet doctors. Civilian use went through the roof, and by 1970, 5% of Americans, roughly 10 million people, were using some kind of prescription amphetamine. This was the so-called rainbow diet pill craze. Then in 1985, the year when the National Institutes for Health declared obesity to be a chronic disease and as such required chronic treatment. It was also the same year that fen-phen came onto the market. The latter, phentermine, and the former, fenfluramine, were shown to help people lose weight, and a lot of it. But due to regulations, it wasn't supposed to be used for longer than 12 weeks. And for the women who did, they developed cases of heart valve abnormalities. This was due to the way in which serotonin was affected in the body. It was suspected that fenfluramine was to blame, and unsurprisingly, this led to it being taken off market. 1999 brought the next iteration of weight loss drug, Orlistat, often sold under the brand name Xenical. Though understood to be safe and it's still FDA approved, Xenical inhibits the digestion of fat, leading to 30% of the fat in the diet passing out in the stool as oil. People can literally develop anal leakage. They pass oil when they think it is air, and sometimes they can lose control of their bowels. This is not dangerous per se, but it can be quite socially embarrassing. In fact, Orlistat is approved for children and adolescents. Now, overweight children are already stigmatized because of their weight, and if they have fecal accidents, it just makes the stigmatization even worse, so it's not really been prescribed all that much. Alongside those mentioned, we've got diuretic, laxatives, thyroid hormones, all of which have had their moment in the sun, and the effects are usually short-term, and the side effects range from the annoying to the fatal. And then came semaglutide, alongside a range of weight loss jabs available from the high street. The long-term side effects of semaglutide are as of yet unknown at the time of making this video, particularly when it comes to weight loss purposes, although the history of weight loss drugs counsels extreme caution. But its rapid rise in popularity says a lot about where we as a culture are right now, and when it comes to attitudes around weight. The wider world really started to realize the potential of these drugs for weight loss in 2021, when the New England Journal of Medicine, a highly regarded publication, published a study showing that the weekly semaglutide injections led to an average 14.9% weight loss in overweight and obese people. A lot of people in the industry were really impressed by this result, but one of the problems is that these drugs aren't always being taken by the people who need them the most. And its rapid uptake by celebrities and a user base who are neither in an obese or overweight category makes it seem like the drug is part of an elite cultural makeover more than a medical intervention. It's important at this stage that the use of GLP-1 agonists, these drugs, is under medical supervision. These drugs need to be carefully followed by a physician who will be looking for troublesome side effects, of which there are many. Listen, purely as a medical achievement, these drugs are stupendous inventions, but invention is one thing, implementation is another. And the current rollout of these weight loss drugs to anyone and everyone raises questions about ethics, culture, and society's berserk relationship with beauty. I'll give you an example. A couple of years ago, I saw a young, fit patient with no medical conditions. He presented with an acute pancreatitis, an inflammation of his pancreas. Now, when this is severe, pancreatitis has a mortality or a kill rate of 1%. That's not great odds. The only notable thing in his medical history was the usage of Ozempic injections off license for weight loss. He was a slim man, so when I asked him why he'd been taking it in the first place, he replied, "I just wanted to get ripped and get a six-pack before my wedding." The Ozempic craze shows no signs of slowing down. Demand for the drug, popularly used for weight loss, is so monumental that it's already changing the diet industry and spurring a marketing bonanza among the dozens and dozens of telehealth startups that now prescribe it. A highly public ad campaign from one startup, Ro, banks on the drug's simple premise: a weekly shot to lose weight. On TikTok, the hashtag Ozempic has been viewed hundreds of millions of times, with people alternately expressing shock over their supposed medication-induced weight loss and swapping stories about side effects. As a surgeon myself who has done bariatric surgery on patients, essentially rewiring the internal digestive plumbing, I've seen the astounding impact that this type of surgery can have on a patient's weight and metabolic conditions. In many cases, bariatric surgery can reverse type 2 diabetes within a matter of weeks. But with surgery naturally comes risks of complications, ranging from simple infections to full-blown worrying leaks between those pipes, known as anastomotic leaks, which can be fatal. These drugs, on the other hand, for a select cohort of patients who would otherwise go down the surgery route, this can truly be considered game-changing because it avoids the risk of surgical complications and going under the knife. Although current evidence still suggests that bariatric surgery is the gold standard when it comes to percentage of weight loss expected from baseline and sustained weight loss in the long term. Notably, when patients stop semaglutide-containing injections, the body returns to its normal physiology and hormonal function, where the appetite, once suppressed, returns to normal levels. This means normal eating patterns can resume and patients can put the weight back on. When these weight loss injections are prescribed, they cannot change habits and routine. So for long-term benefit, sustainable changes including exercise and dietary shifts have to be made. So when a patient does come off these injections, they have to have those lifestyle adjustments in place in order to maintain their weight or maintain some degree of weight loss. The drug has not been systematically tested in people with lower body weight, and it's possible that patients outside the group the drug is intended for could experience more intense side effects. Without more research, it's unclear just how damaging those side effects could be. Now, the point I'm laboriously trying to make is that we should be highly cautious of using weight loss injections willy-nilly for purely aesthetic purposes. With any rapid weight loss comes loss of bone density and loss of lean muscle. In someone who is very overweight or obese, this loss of lean muscle, in addition to the loss of fat, may still confer a favorable body composition and still help with long-term metabolic health. But this is unlikely to apply to someone at a normal weight, where the loss of lean muscle to fat ratio may result in an unfavorable body composition. Now, enough of the bad stuff, let's look towards an optimistic future of these medications. There is some preliminary research looking at whether these same GLP-1 agonists could help with dementia and other neurodegenerative conditions. In conditions like Alzheimer's, there is thought to be a buildup of toxic protein like amyloid beta, which impairs cognitive function. It's believed that these proteins also bind to insulin receptors in the brain, and it dampens the insulin signaling, and this may be associated with cognitive decline. Pairing drugs that destroy these proteins with medication like GLP-1 agonists that increase insulin secretion may help to delay cognitive decline. A research team from NYU Tandon School of Engineering and MIT have started work on a new electrical pill that may be able to regulate people's appetites without drugs or invasive medical procedures, a promising advancement in treating eating disorders and other medical conditions that may benefit from adjusting someone's food intake. You see, this pill delivers electrical impulses to the stomach lining once it's swallowed. This targeted stimulation triggers the brain to modulate gut hormones related to hunger. In a study published in Science Robotics, the researchers revealed that they were able to affect the release of ghrelin, the hunger hormone, in pig trials. The gut and the brain communicate through a neural pathway known as the gut-brain axis, which regulates many bodily functions, including eating. So engaging with the gut to modulate hormones that regulate brain activity, which then feeds back onto the gut-brain axis, using the nervous system to alter the release of certain gut hormones, you can see how this electrical pill could potentially treat a whole host of disorders relating to metabolism and eating without pharmaceuticals or surgery. Potentially a huge step forwards in how we approach these diseases. So engaging with the gut to modulate hormones that then regulate brain activity on the gut-brain axis and using the nervous system to alter the release of certain gut hormones. This electrical pill could potentially treat a host of disorders related to eating and metabolism. And this can be done without pharmaceuticals or surgery. Potentially a big step forwards in how we approach these diseases. Unlike drugs, which have a broad uptake in the gut, lots of side effects, electrical pulses can be designed to target specific cells and locations for targeted therapy. The initial research demonstrates its efficacy in increasing hunger, making it potentially therapeutic for eating disorders such as anorexia and ARFID, avoidant restrictive food intake disorder. But by adjusting the type and location of the stimulation, this same technology may be able to modulate hormones in the opposite direction, reducing overall hunger and providing a treatment for metabolic disorders like obesity and diabetes. With further development, it could potentially treat neuropsychiatric disorders like depression or substance addiction too. The research team is currently conducting additional preclinical testing with the goal of beginning human clinical trials with an advanced prototype within 5 years. Now, these novel weight loss injections should be made more widely available, but the caveat being primarily to those who need them first and foremost. Their use needs to be equitable and monitored safely. Not only that, but their use needs to be incorporated into wider efforts to address the surrounding issues around obesity. Unfortunately, this isn't the situation on the ground level. Certainly in the UK, these semaglutide injections are available privately, but not yet on the NHS. In some cases, the private purchases of these drugs are leading to shortages for those with type 2 diabetes. Additionally, there is evidence of unsafe and inappropriate prescribing. There's also a lot of insufficient training of clinicians around nutrition. You see, there's an overwhelming focus on appetite suppression, which distracts us from our food environment. In particular, this creates a vicious cycle which includes ultra-processed food manufacturers profiting from appetite, overriding food, and pharma companies then profiting from suppressing our appetite so then we can resist the food. The pandemic of diet-related diseases is analogous to the pandemic of cancer caused by tobacco companies of yesteryear. Treatments for smoking-related diseases have been made accessible for everyone, and we should strive to do the same with the new obesity drugs. See, while we spend money on treatments for cancer, we also applied enormous pressure to the tobacco industry, regulating marketing, labeling packages, taxes, and most importantly, doctors, scientists, charities, and policymakers began to refuse their money. It was obvious it was dirty. So whilst we celebrate these new drugs cautiously and with a cynical eye on long-term side effects, mortality, and how these drugs affect people at different weight categories and minority groups, we need to tackle our food environment. The enthusiasm for these drugs doesn't seem to be matched for the enthusiasm for regulation of the industry, which plays a significant role in causing the problem in the first place. We need to regulate the marketing of foods and label packages with appropriate warnings, like countries in South and Central America. We need to improve the wider education around nutrition. See, drug interventions and even surgery are useful tools, but they need to be part of a person-centered approach that addresses root causes and root problems and other surrounding medical conditions. This needs to be done in addition to policy changes that can help to reduce our obesogenic environment. And on that note, and after that mini rant, I am quite hungry, so I'll see you next time.